10 and midnight, yeah.
Okay. So that was disturbing, was it not, to hear somebody pounding on the door late at night?
That was definitely disturbing.
Okay. It could have been an intruder.
I'm sure it could have been.
Okay. So there was reason to be concerned in that apartment.
Yes, because she already forewarned me that her ex-boyfriend might have been coming by.
And did she forewarn you that he might be violent?
No.
But whoever was pounding on the door might have been.
I'm sure they could have been.
Okay. And so, at some point, whoever had been pounding on the outside door somehow got into the building.
Yes, that is true.
Do you know how he got in?
I don't know how he got in.
Okay. And once he got in, he started pounding on the apartment door.
Yes.
You were still concerned.
Yes, I was concerned.
It would have been something that you might have been concerned enough to want to protect the occupants of the apartment.
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay. So if Mr. McCarthy had gotten a baseball bat to protect the occupants of the apartment, that would have been a reasonable thing to do.
Of course, but it wasn't.
It would have been a reasonable thing to do.
Yes, it would have been.
Now, you say that at some point, Rochelle realized who it was, correct?
Correct.
And she went outside, and she and a person that you later learned was her ex-boyfriend sat on the porch having a conversation.
I wouldn't say sit. They were standing out there.
Okay. But you said it lasted almost an hour.
Yeah, anywhere between a half hour to an hour, yes.
And you were peeking out the blinds to see what was going on.
He was peeking out the blinds.
But
I looked, and he was pacing back and forth, looking over and over and over again.
I understand, Mr. Sprinsky, but I said, it's true, is it not, that you were peeking out the blinds
Yeah,
too?
that's true.
Okay. And you overheard the conversation, didn't you?
Not much of it, no.
Well, didn't you hear Rochelle telling him that he was high and drunk and that he couldn't see his daughter?
Yes, I heard that.
Okay. And you heard her tell him that his daughter was visiting somewhere?
I didn't hear that.
Okay. But you heard him say that, that he couldn't see his daughter. Correct?
Objection is the form. I think the pronouns got confused there in terms of gender. Perhaps you could rephrase the question.
Restate the question, Mr. Shapiro?
You heard Ms. Bond tell the person that she was talking to that he couldn't see his daughter.
Not in those terms.
Well, in what terms did she say that he couldn't see her daughter?
She just said that Bella wasn't there.
Okay. And she wasn't going to let him see her if he was drunk and high.
Yes.
Now, you told us that you met Miss Bond on the street. Well, I think what you said was you ran into Miss Bond on the street on the morning of September 16th. Is that right?
Yes, that is correct.
Do we need some help here?
I just need to turn this on somehow.
Mr. Deacon, I don't know, there's a, are we having technical difficulties? Excuse me, would you mind? There we go. There we go.
I'm showing you a photograph on the screen.
Can
Do you
council put on the attorney screen also?
Okay.
Showing you a photograph on the screen, can you, do you recognize that person?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And do you recognize the person, or strike that, do you recognize where that person is?
No, I don't.
Okay. Is this a fair and accurate representation of the person as you saw her on September 16th of 2015?
With the sunglasses, yes.
Okay. And would it, if you look at the reflection behind her, does that appear to be a building on near the hospital?
It looks like it.
Okay. At this point, I would offer this.
May I speak with council for a moment?
Yes. So, Mr. Deacon,
Well,
you still,
Maybe approach that. I'm looking to verify what they represented in
Yes,
terms
yes.
of. It will take me 1 second. No objection, Your Honor.
okay, if that is the next exhibit. Exhibit 20.
May I publish this now?
Yes.
So, Mr. Sprinsky, this is a fair and accurate representation of Rochelle Bond on the morning of September 16th, 2015, correct?
I recognize her with the sunglasses, but she might have looked worse than that.
Okay. She certainly doesn't look upset in this photograph, does she?
No.
And you told us that you had a conversation with her during which she appeared to be crying.
Yes.
But you told us that the tears didn't seem real, correct?
If I knew my child was dead, I'd be pretty broken up, and she didn't seem to be too broken up. Like, she was crying, but it wasn't like,
You thought she may have been putting it on a bit.
yes.
No further questions.
Mr. Sprinsky, after your conversation with Ms. Bond on September 16th is when you sent the text messages to the defendant saying that he had betrayed you, is that right?
Yes,
And saying that Rochelle Bond had told you that he killed Bella, correct?
yes,
And asking where Bella was, is that correct?
that is correct.
And the information that you had that led you to make those texts was from whom?
Could you repeat that one more time?
Yeah. Just to make it clear, did you have information from anyone besides Rochelle Bond about Bella's death?
No, I didn't.
And after the text conversation and the phone conversation that you had with Michael McCarthy, the defendant, on that day, you never spoke to him again, is that correct?
After that day, no, I didn't.
After you had the conversation with Rochelle Bond, I think you testified that you had a conversation by text and phone with your sister, is that right?
Yes, that is correct.
And that's when you saw...
Cross.
Well, can't tell that yet, so that's overruled.
And that's when you saw the baby doe notice, is that what you testified to?
Objection. This is beyond the scope.
Oh, I do remember this, questions about the sister and the conversation. I'm going to overrule it.
That's when you said you recognized the blanket?
Yes, my sister had first made a call, then she texted me a few hours later and asked me to see the rendition, which I have never seen before.
Wait a minute, as to the conversation,
Yes.
is that, okay, that's sustained.
But after your conversation, that's when you saw the notice, is that correct?
Yes.
And the next morning, you contacted the police?
The next morning, yes, I went into
Beyond the scope
Roxbury
of
District
clause.
Court.
Okay, hold on. So you're objecting to beyond the scope. Mr. Deacon, can you just remind me, it was a couple of days ago, how this relates to the cross-examination?
May we approach sidebar to...
Yeah.
Mr. Sprinsky, the next morning, did you contact the police?
Yes, I did. I walked into Roxbury District Court the very next morning.
And did somebody there help you contact the police?
Yes, they did.
Who's that?
A gentleman named Timmy.
What does he do at Roxbury District Court?
He's a probation officer.
Is he somebody you knew?
Yes.
And did he assist you in contacting the police?
Yes, he did.
Did a state trooper come to interview you?
Yes, he did.
And did you participate in that interview?
Yes.
In the course of that interview, did he ask you if he could take something from you?
Objection.
Yes, he did.
As to the same objection?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to allow it overruled.
What was that?
He asked if he could see my phone, and I gave that up with no problem at all.
And did he take it for a period of time?
Yes, he did.
And then did he return it to you?
Yes, he did.
Yesterday, I'm sorry, 2 days ago now, on Wednesday, defense counsel asked you a series of questions about a text message, about text messages back and forth between you and Michael McCarthy. Do you recall that?
Yes.
And in particular, he asked you a series of questions about an exchange between you and him on September 2nd of 2015. Do you recall that?
Yes.
something about your spatula being heavy, sort of speaking in
Right,
it's
I understand.
something you understood. I'm going to ask you, I'm going to show you the next text message from Michael McCarthy to you and ask you to read it to yourself, not out loud, to yourself.
So maybe, yeah, magnify it. So, do you have your screen on? Is your screen on?
I have no idea.
No, I don't, it doesn't.
It's about to be.
Okay. It should come on.
All right, thank you.
There you go. And then we'll try to make it a little bigger.
I can make it much bigger, but I also need to focus it.
Yeah.
I put it up, I'm sorry. Yeah. Can you read that now, Mr. Sprinsky?
Yes, I can read that.
Go ahead and read it to yourself and familiarize with yourself. And in between your texts back and forth with with the defendant, did you receive this text message?
Yes.
Can I ask that this be marked the next exhibit, Your Honor? It's on your screen. Here.
What's the grounds?
Beyond the scope and relevance.
Okay, well, we did talk about this exchange, but we
This
didn't
is
get
this is
into
the second to last and last emails in an exchange defense counsel walked him through on cross.
Okay, text messages, you mean?
I'm sorry, I keep saying emails, text messages
Okay,
in the 21st century.
so that's overruled. I think it is within the scope.
This-
Exhibit 21.
I'm going to try to zoom this even more. May I publish this to the jury, Ryan?
Yes.
And as it comes up on the screen, Mr. Sprinsky, I'm going to ask you if you could read the text message that Mr. McCarthy sent you at the end of that series of text messages Mr. Shapiro asked you about on June 2nd.
Is it June 2nd, is that the date?
June 2nd.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Thank you, Your Honor. September 2nd, 2015.
I really can't see the date of.
I can push that over to you, but can you see the date now?
Okay, thank you.
I'm going to move it back to the middle, so hopefully zoom it as much as possible.
So the first one?
The longer, hang on, the longer one of the two. Let me focus it a little better for everyone. Now.
It says, well, I gotta pay my cell phone bill at 10 at Ashmont. So if you wanna be that I be. Be there at 10, 10:15. We can chill. You need it, and my studies and my knowledge is impeccable. Probably the top few hundred people on the planet who understand what is happening right now. People are losing it everywhere. Psychological admissions to wards up 6,000% since 2 years ago, and these are very specific scientific reasons for this, which why I have been called an expert in this field. My brother ain't gonna deteriorate. You love your kids, get on the red line.
And then he called you Greeks?
Yeah,
I believe you said that was a nickname that he used for you?
yes.
Was this text message the first time that you heard Mr. McCarthy discussing things like people losing it everywhere, psychological admissions to wards up 6,000%, and that he's been recognized as an expert in this field?
No, he talked about that frequently.
I'm going to show you another set of text messages. These from July 23rd, 2015. And I may have to come up and actually... Can you read that, or is it too small to read?
At the moment, it's too small.
May I approach, Your Honor? I don't think there's
Yes.
any way to make this
Yeah.
visible on the screen. I'm going to ask you to read most of this page from line 148.55 to essentially the bottom. Read it to yourself and see if you recognize it.
I object to this. You've already ruled on this, and I think we need to approach sidewalk.
Okay, well, you're attempting to refresh his recollection, then you're going to ask him a question about...
I'm not actually, I'm not refreshing his question, I'm just asking him to familiarize himself with the document to see if he recognizes
And then you're
it.
going to seek to admit it?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, so you want to talk at sidebar? Do you have an objection? Okay, so bring that with you so I can see what you're
For
talking
sure.
about.
Mr. Sprinsky, did you have a chance to look that over while we were having the conference?
Yes, I did.
And do you recognize that as text messages that you exchanged with Mr. McCarthy on July 23rd, 2015?
Yes.
And at this point, Your Honor, I ask that this be marked next to the sequential exhibit.
Yes, I ruled on the objection. 722.
And may I publish that to the jury, Your Honor?
Yes.
Can you read that, Mr. Sprinsky?
Yes, I can.
And I'm just going to, in a moment, I'm going to try to even zoom it in larger for anybody who's having difficulty reading it. But just to remind us, can you see the date and time stamps on this text messages?
Yes, I can.
What is the date and time stamp?
From which line?
Start from 148.63.
July 23rd, 2015 at 7:14 a.m.
Now I'm going to ask you, I'm going to try to zoom in a little bit more at this point. Oops. And what's now the top line, only because of how the exhibit's being displayed, did you send a text, is that a text message from you to Mr. McCarthy?
Yes.
What does it say?
It says, I got an appointment on the 30th with a doctor. Been waiting a month. They better give me beans. Sick of paying for them. And just to clarify that, I'm not the same person right now. I've been clean for 18 months off this stuff. So it's still hard for me to talk about.
I understand. And when you refer to beans there, what are you specifically referring to?
Klonopins.
And then, is there, skipping one text message down, is there a response from Mr. McCarthy, from the defendant?
Yes.
And can you read what he wrote you?
It says, just call me in a few days before, and I will tell you exactly what to say, as I've told many want to say in this. Now 9 people that have gotten benzos prescribed because of what I've told them to say word for word. Very simple. You say it, you'll get them. And it stems off honesty.
And then, did you respond to that? Next
Yes.
line down. What did
Yes.
you write?
I said it's all truth. Once they hear my story, if I didn't get them, I'd drop on the floor right there.
And why did you say that?
I said that because I've had a rough life.
And then, did he respond to that text message?
Yes.
And what did he write?
It says, tell him you've been an addict since you've been 14, and your whole problem revolves around your mother's taking care of when she had skin cancer that spread through her whole body. And the start of the anxiety, and then it's never gone away. So you've been using it ever since then. And use that as your coping mechanism for all your anxiety. And you need good anxiety meds, as you're entitled to, because there's people with a lot less issues than you, like some lady who's in her 50s, interfaith marriage, that's crying about a rich husband cheating on her in the Caribbean. It's gotten a 120 Xanax a month. But you know, people in our situation with real problems, they don't want to give a few away, and not even 60 and 90 a month. So that's why you make it very clear that you don't join and try to hide the drug addict thing to say, I used to be. I'm not on them anymore, and I'm not on drugs, and I'm trying to straighten my life out, so I need your help. Please be the one to help me. I can tell you more gigs, exactly what to say, but that's the skinny of it as we go, all right?
And when he sent you this text message, were you in the throes of your struggle with addiction at that time?
Absolutely.
I'm going to show you another text message from September 10th, 2015. Can you see that date stamp?
September 10th?
No, you don't have to say it. I'm just asking if you can see it. I'm sorry.
Yes.
And I'm going to ask you to look at that text message And by the way, that is a text message to you
Yes,
from the defendant?
yes.
Just read that text message for yourself. Don't read it out loud, just read it to yourself to see if you could recognize it.
Yes, I recognize it.
And is that a text message that you received from the defendant
Yes,
on September 10, 2015?
yes.
Move to introduce that in evidence, Your Honor.
Essentially, what, along the lines we discussed at sidebar?
No.
Any additional
It's a different
grounds?
objection.
Any additional grounds you want to articulate in a word or two?
Well, it's beyond the scope for one thing.
Overruled.
Ask that this be marked next sequential exhibit.
Submitted and exhibit 22?
23.
23, okay.
May I publish this to the jury, Your Honor?
Yes.
And if you would, as the exhibit's coming up on the screen, Mr. Sprinsky, please read the defendant's text to you of September 10th.
Says, sup, nigga, text me when you get up. Nigga looking for the beans bad, bro. Puking. Been puking, you feel all kinds of weird shit. Been trying to get them. Today's day 4 without them. I'm surprised I haven't seen you down there. I want to bury my foot in Queen Klonopin's box.
And that's a text message of September 10th from the defendant to you.
Yes.
I'm going to show you what I think is the last text message I'm going to show you, dated September 14th of 2015. First, can you see the date and time stamp on there?
So this is already in evidence?
Oh, I'm sorry, Your Honor. Nope,
Okay.
it isn't.
Okay.
I apologize. Thank you, Your Honor. So now, can you see the timestamp on there?
Yes, I can.
And what's the timestamps on these 3 text messages? Or really 2, the top 2.
3:20?
3:20 p.m.
Yes.
on September 14, 2015.
Yes.
And is this a text message from you to the defendant and a reply from the defendant to you?
Yes, it is.
Can I ask you just to read that and see if you recall receiving that text message?
Yes.
This time I move to introduce this as next sequential exhibit.
Same
No
objection?
objection.
Okay, overruled. 24.
And may I publish this to the jury, Ron?
Yes.
So the first one is a text message from you to the defendant.
Yes.
And what does it say?
It says it's ugly, man. Johnny's and beans. Not even. Probably supposed to say, sure, I looking.
And just remind, what does Johnny's mean?
It's a slang for medication called like Neurontin.
Neurontin? And is that something that you took at that time as a, well, to get high?
Not to get high, but it's like a form to relax you from anxiety.
And just remind us what beans are?
Klonopins.
And how did he respond?
He said, got it, call me quick, got Sub-Zero.
And did you know what he meant by Sub-Zero?
Yes.
What's that?
Heroin.
You testified on cross-examination when Mr. Shapiro was asking you questions on Wednesday about a time when, you actually testified when I asked you questions that Rochelle had spanked Bella. And on cross-examination you said that she did that because Bella wouldn't tell Rochelle Bond about the demons that were inside of her. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Was the defendant present when that happened?
Yes.
Did he see that happening?
Yes.
Did he take any steps to intervene or stop her?
No.
You said that I think I'm quoting you now, when Mr. Shapiro was asking you questions, that Ms. Bond had told you that Bella was possessed by demons. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Did the defendant ever tell you anything similar? That Bella was possessed by demons?
All the time.
So more frequently than Ms. Bond said that?
Overruled.
Yes, definitely.
You said when Mr. Shapiro was asking you questions on Wednesday, I'm quoting you now, when you've been hearing it for so long, I think you were referring to me. What did you mean by that?
What I meant by that is I was his friend for a long time, and he was seriously deep into the dark side of things. And when you've been hearing that for so long, over and over and over and over every single day for years, yeah, it pretty much gets to you.
Mr. Shapiro asked you on Wednesday, and I'm quoting him now, he asked you whether you told, and now we're talking about September 16th, the day of your conversation with Ms. Bond about Bella's death, that you told Ms. Bond to get away from the defendant. You recall Mr. Shapiro asking you that?
Yes.
And did you in fact tell Ms. Bond to get away from the defendant?
At one point I did.
Why?
Because after she had told me what she had initially told me, I said, you better run because he's crazy.
Mr. Sprinsky, Mr. Shapiro asked you a number of questions on Wednesday about your involuntary commitment to Bridgewater State Hospital for detoxification. You remember him asking you those questions?
Yes.
And he was asking, he made the point that your sister had you sent to Bridgewater State Hospital involuntarily. Is that right?
That's correct.
And he asked you about some comments that you had made about your how much you had been using. When they asked you to sort of describe the extent of your addiction, they asked you to describe the substances you had been using. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And I think you said that you agreed that you had told them that you were using 3 or 4 grams of heroin a day. Is that right?
Yes.
And were you in fact using 3 or 4 grams of heroin a day?
No.
Why did you tell them you were using 3 or 4 grams of heroin a day if you weren't?
Because anybody that's been in addiction knows, and anybody that's been to a Bridgewater facility, is that you're treated horribly and they don't medicate you there. So it's a way that you have to say that in order to be medicated. That's why I said that.
It was important to you to be medicated?
Yes.
Mr. Shapiro asked you if you could remember when, what month, you were in Bridgewater State Hospital. You remember him asking you that?
Yes,
And you replied that you thought it was April. Is that correct?
that is correct.
Oh. I'm going to show you the assessment form, the Bridgewater State Hospital assessment form that Mr. Shapiro showed you on Wednesday when he was asking you the questions about what you had told him about how much of each substance you had used. Let me ask you, before Mr. Shapiro asked you questions on Wednesday about your Bridgewater State Hospital admission, had you ever seen any records of your Bridgewater State Hospital admission?
No, never.
And specifically, had you ever seen any, well, you've never seen any records of it at all?
No, never.
Had you discussed the records with anybody?
No.
And had anybody ever asked you questions about when you, before Mr. Shapiro did, about when you were in Bridgewater State Hospital?
I think somebody might have asked me before.
Did anybody ever show you any documents to tell you when that was?
No,
Or tell you when it was?
no.
So when Mr. Shapiro asked you questions, you were trying to recall from your own memory the summer of 2015 and when you were in Bridgewater State Hospital?
Yes,
And you said April, which your memory was it was April, is that right?
yes, that's correct.
And what is the date in the upper left corner on the Bridgewater State Hospital assessment form that Mr. Shapiro showed you?
April 18th, 2015.
Move to introduce this as the next sequential exhibit, Your Honor.
Any objection to this?
No,
Okay.
Can I publish it to the jury, Your Honor?
Yes.
And again, can you direct you read the date April 18th, 2015, that's in the upper left-hand corner?
Yes, it is.
No further questions, Your Honor.
So, Mr. Sprinsky, you just told us that when you went into Bridgewater State Hospital for treatment, you lied to the people who were there.
I didn't lie to them.
Well, were you using, as the exhibit number 25 said, 3 to 4 grams of heroin a day?
It's just a form of,
The question is, did you tell them that you're using 3 or 4 grams of heroin a day?
yeah, that's what I told them.
Okay, was that a lie?
That was a stretch.
Was it true?
Was what true?
Was it true when you told them that you were using 3 to 4 grams of heroin a day?
No, that wasn't true.
Okay, so, but you told them that,
Yeah, I told them that.
so you were lying.
No,
You were lying because as an addict, you'll do anything to get whatever it is you want.
Not me.
Did you tell them that you were drinking 3 to 4 pints of vodka a day?
Yeah, that's what I told him.
Was that true?
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, so that was true.
Yep.
Okay. Did you tell them that you were using, that yesterday, the day before you admitted, you had used 5 milligrams of benzosclonopin?
Yeah, that's true.
That was true.
Yeah, that's true.
So, of everything you told them, the only thing you say that wasn't true was that you were using 3 to 4 grams of heroin a day.
Yes.
So how much heroin were you using a day?
I'd say about a gram.
Now, you told us that you, when you met Rochelle Bond on September 16th in the morning, you told us about a conversation with her.
Correct.
And at some point, you told her to get away from Mr. McCarthy, correct?
At some point.
Okay. It's true, is it not, that you told her to get away from Mr. McCarthy when you first met her, before she said anything about Bella?
No, it's false.
Do you recall testifying before the grand jury on September 18th of 2015? You remember that?
I remember that.
Okay, that was September 18th. That was just 2 days after you had met Miss Bond on the street where you had run into her, correct?
Correct.
Okay. I'm putting something up on the screen. And beginning on line 2, this is your testimony on September 18th of 2015. You were asked, where did you go? And you said, we walked. We walked down towards Stop and Shop by the South Bay Mall. And then you were asked, what were you talking about initially? And your answer, initially I was saying, because she had recently told me that she wasn't using drugs for a couple of days, and I said, good. I said, well, you should stay away from him so that you can get your child back, you know?
Yep.
And then you were asked more about getting the child back, okay? It's true, isn't it, that you told her to get away from Mr. McCarthy and get your child back before you had any conversation about Bella?
I'd tell anybody in that condition to get away from somebody like that.
Yeah, but that wasn't the question. The question was the conversation you had with Ms. Bond about getting her child back and getting away from Mr. McCarthy was before she said anything about Bella.
During the conversation we were having, I asked her.
Yeah, I'm trying to ask you one question. Isn't it true that the conversation we just read and that you have up on your screen, that was the conversation you had initially, at first?
Yes, that's what it says.
And then later, after that, she said something about Bella, correct?
Yes, after that.
Okay. So you had told her to get away from Mr. McCarthy before she said anything about Bella, correct?
Yeah, because I was asking her.
Okay, that's all. Now, you were shown Exhibit 21. Which I'm putting up on the screen. And Can you see that?
I can see that.
Okay. Now, as Mr. Deacon had brought out, this email on September 2nd, 2015 at about 9:22 came right after you had texted Mr. McCarthy about how bad shape you were in, right?
Yeah, I was in pretty bad shape.
Okay. You had said your spatula is heavy or something like that.
Yeah, something in that nature.
Okay. And when he answered you in this email, he was telling you that he was concerned about the fact that you were in such bad shape, wasn't he?
Yes, that's what he was saying.
And this was consistent with the way he had been with you for years.
That's true.
He cared about you.
That's true.
And he was telling you that your problems were problems that lots of people had.
That's true.
And that you love your kids, get on the green line, the red line, Greeks. He was telling you to do something to help yourself, wasn't he?
Yes, he was.
And then you wrote back to him right after that, and you said, "I need help, pal, bad. I will knock."
That's what I said.
So you were going, when you say "I will knock," is that because you were going over to see him?
Yeah, like, I'll knock when I get there.
Okay. So it's fair to say that this email, or this text messages, suggested that he cared about you and that he was willing to help you.
Yeah.
Now, you were also asked about Exhibit 22. And this email is dated, or this text message is dated July 23rd of 2015. Right? Is that right?
That's correct.
Now, I know this is tough for you, Mr. Sprinsky, but you had been texting Mr. McCarthy about what bad shape you were in.
Yeah, we were talking all the time.
Okay. And this was a text message that he sent to you to try to help you out.
Yes, he was definitely a concerned friend.
Now, at this point, you were looking to get anxiety medication, correct?
That's correct.
And so he told you to go see a doctor and to tell the doctor you've been an addict since you've been 14 and your whole problem revolves around your mother's taken care of when she had skin cancer that spread through her body and start of this anxiety, and that has never gone away. So you've been using ever since then and use that as your coping mechanism for all your anxiety, and you need good anxiety meds as you're entitled to, because this people with a lot less issues or less issues than you, like some ladies who's in her 50s, interfaith marriage, that's crying about her rich husband cheating on her in the Caribbean. It's gotten a F, 120 Xanax a month. But you know people, and I situation, what real problems they don't want to give away, and not even 60 and 90 a month. So that's why you make it very clear that you don't join and try to hide the drug addict thing to say, I'm used to be, I'm not on them anymore, and I'm not on drugs, and I'm trying to straighten out my life. so I need your help. Please be the one to help me. Now, all of that he wrote you is true, isn't it?
Yeah, that's true.
He knew what had happened to your mother.
Yeah.
And he was there to help you when your mother had cancer.
Yeah, he was there.
Was he supportive?
Yeah.
Did he help you?
At that time, yeah, he did.
And was the anxiety that you experienced then, was that an anxiety that was part of your addiction problem?
Absolutely.
Okay. And at the time that he texted you this message, you were trying to help yourself, weren't you?
Yeah, I was tired.
And this was his suggestion.
Yeah.
And was it a reasonable suggestion for him to make?
I'd say so.
Did you act on that suggestion?
Yeah, I tried to.
Okay. And in the end, he said, I can tell you more gigs, exactly what to say, but that's the skinny on it as we go. All right, love you. He was trying to help you, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was trying to.
Okay. And did it help?
Yeah, he was my friend. He did help me.
Now, you referred to one email, I think it's Exhibit 24. And this was introduced. This was an email on September 14th of 2015.
It's a text and not an email.
Text, sorry. Text, sorry. Exhibit 24. And on the second line, you referred to a text from Mr. McCarthy to you in which he said he got Sub-Zero. Now, isn't it true that Sub-Zero is Suboxone?
We had all kinds of different slangs for things.
Well, my question is, Sub-Zero, Sobo, isn't that Suboxone?
No, we called it a few things.
Well, is Suboxone one of the things that Sub-Zero means?
Yeah, one of the terms.
Okay. And Suboxone is something, I think you said the other day, is used when somebody, in order to avoid the consequences of heroin.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay. And so you were in bad shape on September 14th, correct?
Correct.
Mr. McCarthy offered you Suboxone to help you.
Yeah, he used to help me.
Okay. Thank you. I have no further questions.
Briefly, if I may.
Okay.
The defendant was your friend? You need to answer.
Yes, he was.
He helped you?
Yes.
And you told Ms. Bond that she should get away from him, didn't you?
Yes.
Nothing further.
I don't there's anything else. Thank you, Mr. Sprinsky. You can step down. You are excused. The next witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. The people of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts called Joseph McCarthy, Jr.
Face the clerk, raise your right hand. You solemnly swear the testimony you shall give this court and jury and the cause now in hearing shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Have a seat, please.
Watch that. Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. McCarthy.
Good morning.
Could I ask you please to introduce yourself to the jurors and spell your last name for the court report?
Good morning. My name is Joseph Michael McCarthy Jr., McCarthy.
And are you related to the defendant, Michael McCarthy?
Yes, I am.
How are you related?
I am his older brother.
And I think by stipulation we can agree that the witness is testifying about the defendant, Michael McCarthy.
Yes, right? In other words, do
Yes.
not require him to identify him in court, right, Mr. Shapiro?
When were you born?
April 16th, 1978.
And are you the defendant's older or younger brother?
Older brother.
By how much?
2 years.
When was he born?
May 29th, 1980.
Were the two of you close growing up?
Yes, we were.
Did you have, or do you have other siblings?
No.
And where did you grow up?
In South Boston.
Is it one home, or did you move to more than one location?
We moved to more than one location in our lives.
Was there a place in South Boston, a home that you consider sort of your home as a child, or no? I mean, I understand South Boston.
Not one particular home as a child.
And were you raised, did you have both your mother and father with you in your household?
Our parents divorced.
Okay. And so, did you know both your mother and your father growing up?
Yes.
And whose home did you live in primarily, if that question makes sense?
Mother's home.
Where'd you go to school?
St. Bridget's Catholic Elementary School.
And from there, where'd you go?
To Boston Latin School.
Did you graduate from Boston Latin?
Yes, I did.
And did you do any college after that?
Yes, at UMass Boston for about a year and a half.
And when you finished at UMass Boston, what did you do?
I worked primarily as a security guard for a couple of jobs before I got into plumbing in 2002.
And was that, how did you get into plumbing?
I got into plumbing because my dad owns a business as a master plumber, and I started as an apprentice for him.
Did the defendant go to the same school as you did?
Elementary school, yes, he did.
And then where did he go after St. Bridget's?
Don Bosco Technical High School.
Did he graduate from there?
No.
When he left Don Bosco, do you know what he did?
He went to South Boston High School.
And did he complete high school there?
No.
Where did he go from there?
He dropped out and eventually got his GED.
And after dropping out of school and then I understand ultimately getting his GED, what did he do?
He worked for my father as an apprentice plumber for a year or so.
And then what happened?
He stopped working for my dad and just lived at home with my mother.
And how old was he when he stopped working for your father?
17.
And then he lived at home with your mother?
Yes.
Did he work after that?
He did. He worked as a red shirt supervisor for the city of Boston for a summer.
And after that, what did he do?
Again, I think it was just primarily living at home until he got his GED.
And after getting his GED, did he do something different?
Not as far as work, not that I can remember.
After working as a registered supervisor, do you remember him having a regular job after that, after he was 17?
No.
Did he sometimes, well, did he work for your father on occasion?
He would.
How frequently would that happen, or infrequently?
Once a month, once every 2 months, maybe.
And when you say once, is that one day, one job?
It would be one job, but primarily one day.
So after he was 17, his work was limited to working a day a month or a day every 2 months for your father?
Yes.
Were you close as children?
Yes, we were.
And did you remain close as you moved into adulthood?
Yes, we did.
At any point, do you know, well, was your brother, the defendant, ever interested in sort of general physical fitness, any sort of exercise, workout routine, regime, or anything like that?
At one time in his life, yes.
When was that?
Approximately 1999, 2000.
Which is when he was how old?
20 years old.
And what was he doing?
Weightlifting, working out, cardiovascular exercise also.
And where did he do those things?
At the L Street Bathhouse in South Boston.
Did you ever know, well, after 1999, 2000, when he was 19 or 20, well, first of all, how long did he keep up that interest in cardiovascular workouts, weightlifting, that kind of stuff?
It was for about a year.
After that, did you ever know him to be involved in a regular exercise or workout program?
No.
After that, did you ever know him to be involved in weightlifting?
No.
I'm sorry to ask, but at some point, did your mom pass away?
She did, yes.
And, well, let me ask you before I go there. During his adult life, did your brother suffer from addiction issues?
Yes.
And how old was he when you first learned that he had a struggle with addiction?
17, 18 years old.
And what drug or drugs did you learn that he was struggling with addiction to?
Opiates.
And when you say opiates, it covers more than one type of thing. So when you first learned it when he was 17 or so, what sort of opiates was he using?
Pills.
And only if you know, well, do you know where he got those pills when he was 17?
No, I do not.
How did you know that he was using pills?
Because I would see them.
And did the substances that he was using change over time?
Yes.
And what did they change to?
Heroin.
And if you know, how old was he when he switched from prescription opioid pills to heroin?
I don't know exactly.
If you had to estimate, best estimate of when that was?
22, 23 years old?
Okay. So that would be sometime in the early part of the last decade?
Yes.
And during your lifetime, have you also struggled with addiction issues?
Yes, I have.
And what substance or substances do you wrestle with?
Opiates.
How old were you when your struggle began?
I was 18, 19 years old.
So around the same time that your brothers did?
True, yes.
And what were you using at that time?
Pills.
And did the substance or substances that caused you difficulty switch at some point as well?
Yes, it did.
And to what?
To heroin.
And when was that?
I was 24, 25 years old.
So again, roughly the same period of time as your brother's addiction shifted to heroin as well?
Roughly about the same time, yes.
I asked you earlier about your mother's passing.
Yes.
And I'm sorry, I'm truly sorry to ask you again, but I can't remember when you said it, but I just want to be sure.
It was July of 2013.
Prior to your mom's passing, did the defendant live with her continuously?
Yes, he did.
And how would you describe their relationship before she passed?
Their relationship was, for all intents and purposes, a normal mother-son relationship.
When you say that, as he grew into adulthood, did your mother continue to care for him?
Yes.
Did your mother look out for him?
Look out for him.
Make sure that he had clean clothes, reasonably fed, had money if he needed it, that kind of thing?
Yes.
Did you notice any change in your brother after your mother passed away? Well, let me actually go back. When your mother passed away, where did your brother live after she passed?
He lived in the apartment where my mother had lived for a few months.
And then where did he go?
To my father's plumbing office.
So he moved, he actually lived in your father's plumbing office?
He did.
And that's the plumbing office at 618 Hancock Street where the jury and we all went yesterday?
Yes.
Same office?
Yes.
And how was it that he was able to live in your father's plumbing office?
My dad let him live there.
Did he have a key?
Yes, he did.
And could he come and go as he pleased?
Yes.
Where did he keep his things?
In the basement, right underneath the plumbing office.
So as you go down the stairs in the basement, in the room off to the left?
As soon as you get down to the stairs, that room at the bottom of the stairs
Okay.
is where he would keep his things.
And are there still some of his things there as of today?
There are, yes.
Was he able, if you know, to live continuously in your father's plumbing office from the time he moved out of your mother's apartment until the time he moved in with Rochelle Bond?
What was the question? Could he or did
From
he?
the time that he left your mother's apartment and moved into your father's plumbing office,
Yes.
till the time he moved into Maxwell Street, did he live all that entire time uninterruptedly at your father's plumbing office?
No, there was one other house he stayed at.
And whose house is that, if you know?
I do not remember the young man's name.
If I said Robert McMahon, does that ring a bell?
That does ring a bell, thank you.
And how long did he live with Mr. McMahon?
2 months, 2.5 months.
Do you remember when that was?
It was before Christmas of 2013.
2013.
Yes.
And other than the time he spent living with Mr. McMahon, did he always live in your father's plumbing office?
Yes.
Did you notice any change in your brother's demeanor or behavior after your mom's death?
I mean, outside of a son being sad that his mother died, I didn't notice any dramatic change.
So, okay, no dramatic change, but that then leads me to ask, did you notice any change at all, even if it wasn't dramatic?
Well, yes, but again, I took it as a son being sad that his mother had just passed suddenly.
And what was it that he was doing, what was the change that you attributed to his mother's passing? What was it that changed about him that you attributed to his mother's passing?
Oh, he was a little more sad and somber. Sad that his mom was gone.
Anything else?
That's all that struck me in his behavior.
To your knowledge, you said that your brother had a key to your father's plumbing shop, is that right?
Yes.
To your knowledge, did Rochelle Bond ever have a key to your father's plumbing office?
No.
When you say no, you sounded definitive. Are you saying that you know that she does not have a key?
I know that she was never given her own key to the plumbing office.
In the basement, when we visited yesterday, in the basement, well, let me ask you this. The basement area that we visited yesterday, there's sort of there's the room that you described right at the bottom of the stairs when you come down the stairs that sort of you walk into and then you turn right and sort of make another right and there's a couple of long hallways.
Yes.
And then at the end there's an area that has a couch and a weightlifting bench and some weights. Right?
Yes.
Is that area Does that whole area belong to your father's plumbing office?
No.
Whom does it belong to, or what businesses does it belong to?
That is a common area underneath the building. And the old landlord's son would use that weight bench to work out from time to time, a couple times a week.
How long has that weight bench been down there?
That's been there since my dad moved in, since we moved our plumbing shop into that building.
And that was when?
2008.
So as long as your dad's shop's been at that location, because I noticed your dad's shop says established since 1978, is that right?
Yes.
So in 2000, I think you said 8, you
Yes.
moved the shop there.
Yes.
And that weight bench has been there since you moved in?
Yes.
So I'm gathering then that the weights don't belong to you or your dad's plumbing business?
No.
But you said it's a common area?
Yes.
Is that, how do you know it's a common area? I mean, I know that sounds like a silly question, but how do you know that that's a common area?
It's a common area because next to the plumbing shop, there's a salon. And in one of the rooms down there, before the salon people moved out, they would store some of their stuff there. So it was, like I say, it was a common area. It was a place where tenants or the other renters in the building could store stuff if they wanted to.
And did you or your father occasionally go through the common area that we visited? I'm not talking about the room down at the bottom of the stairs, but the rest of the common area that we visited. Did you, your father, your brother occasionally go through that area as well?
We would. We'd bring out some of our plumbing materials through that back door and through the alleyway.
And I noticed also that there's a bathroom in the hallway there. Is that the bathroom that the three of you would use if you needed to go?
Yes.
So I'm guessing that when you are at the plumbing shop, or when you were at the plumbing shop, you would be down there fairly frequently. By that I mean to use the bathroom, that kind of thing. Is that right?
Yes.
In the summer of, well, let's say in 2015, the whole year of 2015, your brother had a cell phone, is that correct?
Yes.
And do you remember his cell phone number?
I do not remember the cell phone number.
Because like everyone, you have the disease that you have contacts and store all the numbers in the phone, is that why?
True, absolutely.
If I suggested to you that his cell phone number was 857-615-5482, does that ring a bell?
The 857 area code does, but the last 7 digits I can't be sure of.
Let me ask you, in 2015, did you regularly exchange text messages with your brother?
Yes, I did.
Did you regularly exchange phone calls with your brother?
Yes.
And was your cell phone number at that time, well, what was your cell phone number at that time?
It's the same as it is now. It would be 617-259-6642.
6642?
Yes.
May I have 1 second, Doreen?
Yes.
Apologize for the report. So 617-259-6642.
Yes.
And it was that throughout. How long have you had that cell phone number?
For 10, 11, 12 years now.
Okay. In 2015, did your brother have a car?
Yes, he did.
What kind of car?
It was a gray Chevy Cavalier.
Okay. And older model, newer model?
Older model, late 90s, early 2000s.
Do you know when he got it?
When he got it from my grandfather through my mother. I can't be sure. It would have been the end of 2014, maybe beginning of 2015.
Okay. And when he got it, was it on the road?
No,
Okay. Did it get on the road at some point?
it did.
When?
June, July of 2015.
If I suggested to you that he went to the registry of motor... I'm not leading him, gently impeaching her.
Objection.
Why don't you restate the question?
How sure are you that it was June or July that it went back on the road?
I say that because I remember my brother's car was getting fixed for a long time, and he was frustrated about how long it was taking to get fixed. So that's why I am going to when I knew that he had it.
Well, that's when you knew it had been fixed, but I'm asking you when it was registered, put on the road, that kind of thing.
Again, that would be, like I said, the earlier of my dates, so sometime in 2014.
Sometime in 2014.
Yes.
And it was registered in 2014, but wasn't on the road until June or July of 2015?
You know, the title had to be changed over to my brother's name, and during that time of the title being changed, I believe the car was parked in a garage before it could be registered, before he could get the plates. And then once that happened, the car had to be fixed, and then he started driving it. I'm not sure of all those dates. And
how many times was it fixed?
I only remember the one time when it was being fixed at the garage.
And what was wrong with it?
Brakes and exhaust, I believe, from sitting
And do you remember when that was that it was fixed?
in April and May of 2015.
April and May?
Maybe just May. I mean, it was sitting for a long time.
How long?
Months.
To your knowledge, did Rochelle Bond ever have access, since you knew her, did she ever have access to a car? Or did she ever own her own car? Did she have a car?
Not that I've known, no.
When did you first meet Rochelle Bond?
A couple days before Easter of 2015.
So you'd never known her before that?
No,
Did you know of her before Easter?
I did.
How?
When my brother first started talking to her and started going out with her.
When was that?
February of that year, of 2015.
Okay. And how is it that you have a good memory for that date? And I'm not questioning you, but how is it that you remember it was February of 2015?
I mean, there was a lot of snow, and I don't think it was closer to the beginning of the year. That's why I'm putting it around Valentine's Day, middle of February, around that time.
And how did you learn that your brother was going out with her?
He told me.
Did he tell you? Did he tell you whether, as a result of going out with her, he changed his residence?
No.
Well, did he move in with her? As I guess.
Okay. Yes, he did.
And when was that?
Middle of March of 2015.
Do you recall your brother, the defendant, telling you anything about the process of his moving into her house?
I do.
What do you remember?
He was going over to Rochelle's house because she asked him to burn some sage.
Sage?
Sage, yeah, like
For-
incense.
For what purpose?
She believed that there were some evil spirits or presences in the house that she wanted to ward off.
And it's your understanding that she asked him to burn the sage?
Yes.
And do you know the term for doing that? Do you know what people call it when they do that?
No.
Have you heard the phrase saging the home?
Now I have. But no, I never heard that before.
I haven't heard it before I said it. Now, you say that you thought they began going out in February. You think your brother moved in the middle of March. But you didn't meet her until when?
Till a couple days before Easter.
Of 2015?
Of 2015, yes.
And how did you meet her?
Rochelle and Bella, myself, my brother, my father and his fiance were going out for Easter dinner, and there was no car seat for Bella. So my dad got a car seat for her, and a couple days before Easter, I went over and we just put Bella in the car seat to make sure she would fit properly so that when everyone came over to pick Rochelle and Bella and Mike up for Easter dinner. We could put the car seat in, get everyone in the cars, and go.
And it was then that you first met Rochelle Bond?
Yes.
Did you talk to her?
Yes, I did.
And did you go into the apartment that day?
Yes, I did.
Describe the apartment if you would.
The apartment was, was 2-bedroom apartment. When you go in the door, you come right into the main living room. Kitchen's in the middle of the apartment. It's a bedroom in the front of the apartment facing Maxwell Street, and there's a bathroom and a back bedroom.
And when you went to the apartment for the first time, how would you describe the housekeeping, the condition of the apartment?
It was cluttered, but it wasn't overly messy. It wasn't overly dirty. You know, there were clothes strewn about. There were toys about for Bella to play with, but it wasn't overly messy, like I said.
Do you recall describing it as saying that it wasn't immaculate, but it was not messy?
Yes.
Is that a fair description of not immaculate but not messy? That's a fair description.
Yes, it is.
So you went over to the apartment to fit Bella for, or well, not to fit her, but to make sure she fit in the car seat that your family had gotten for her.
Yes.
And did you interact with Bella that first day when you went over to the apartment?
Yes.
Okay. And did you interact with her again soon after?
Soon after.
Say at Easter?
Yes.
Because you said that your family was planning to go out for Easter dinner. Did you in fact do that?
Yes, we did.
Okay. So you interacted with her when you went over to make sure she fit in the car seat, and then again a short while later at Easter dinner?
Yes.
Okay. What type of girl was Bella?
She was a happy young 2-year-old. I took her as. And she was funny. Happy. Not disheveled, not abused, not bruised. She seemed like a seemed like a normal 2-year-old.
So I'm going to put up on the screen Exhibit 4. Do you recognize the person depicted in the picture?
I do.
And who's that?
That is Bella Bond.
She, in the picture, seems to have a happy expression on her face.
Yes, she does.
Is that expression familiar to you from your interactions with her?
Yes, it is.
Did you have a chance to see the defendant interacting with Bella when you visited?
Yes, I did.
And how did the two of them seem to get along?
They seem to get along fine.
Did your brother play with her at all when you were there?
I would see that, yes.
Did he ever? What kind of playing do you remember him engaging in?
They'd sing songs together. They'd play whatever toys were around. Maybe play catch, do a puzzle.
Do you ever remember him picking her up so she could reach the ceiling, some spinners on the ceiling?
Yes, yes, I do.
And when he picked her up to do the spinners, would he use one hand or two hands?
2 hands.
But he was able to do that repeatedly?
Yes, as many times as she wanted.
Okay. And did you also have a chance to see Bella interact with Rochelle Bond?
Yes.
And how did the two of them interact?
They interacted fine.
Did Bella seem happy to be with her mother when they were interacting?
She did.
Did Ms. Bond seem to be happy to be with Bella?
She did.
What do you remember them doing when you were there?
One memory that I have is, excuse me, Bella eating a sandwich that Rochelle had prepared for her.
And why does that stick out in your mind?
I mean, I guess I don't want to say it's the only thing I remember as far as their interactions together, but I think throughout all these proceedings that sticks out as far as the care of Bella. Like, I saw her eating, she always had food.
Do you remember the Easter dinner?
Yes, I do.
Where'd you go?
To Phillips Old Colony House on Morrissey Boulevard in Dorchester.
And just, I know you've said this before, but remind us who went?
Bella and Rochelle, myself and my brother, my father, and my father's fiance.
And how did you all get there?
We drove in 2 separate cars.
Which cars?
My father's fiance's car and my father's plumbing truck.
And when you got there, what do you remember about arriving there? I'm asking specifically about what do you remember about Bella when you arrived there?
My dad and I got there first, and there was someone dressed up like an Easter bunny. So I think my dad, I don't think he gave the guy in the Easter bunny costume $5 or anything. He may have, but just, hey, there's this little girl Bella coming, you know, just say hi to her.
And did the Easter bunny do that?
Yeah.
Do you need a second or a tissue?
No, I got tissues.
Okay. And how did Bella respond when the Easter bunny said her name?
I mean, you know, she opened up her face. She was happy. She couldn't believe that the Easter bunny knew her name. You know, gave her a little piece of candy, and that started the day off pretty good.
How was Bella at Easter dinner? I mean, how did she seem to enjoy it?
She had a great time. She liked all the food. She was very good sitting there the whole time. Yeah.
Do you remember anything spilling at some point?
Yeah.
What do you remember?
She spilled a chocolate milk that she was drinking, and it went all over the table. And she got upset. I don't know if actually she cried or not, but she got upset. And you know, we meaning I think me and my dad cleaned it up real quick. And Mike put his hand on her and said, you know, it's all right. Don't worry about it. It's fine. We'll clean it up.
Did you see Bella again after Easter dinner?
Yes, I did.
Roughly how many times?
2 or 3 times.
And where would you see her when you saw her?
At the Maxwell Street house.
And over what kind of period of time did you see her? So from Easter, you had Easter dinner, and you said 2 or 3 times after that. What?
Maybe once a week for the next 3 or 4 weeks. I mean, barring 1 week.
So you were over at Maxwell Street reasonably regularly?
Well, like I said, once a week or so, yeah.
And how was Bella, the 2 or 3 times that you saw her after that, over the ensuing few weeks, how did she seem to you?
The same that I had seen the first 2 times that I saw her.
Which means?
Which means happy, well-adjusted, you know, not always had clothes on, not dirty, not tired, playing, happy.
Did you ever see Bella misbehave? And by that I don't mean anything, it doesn't have to be something major, some awful thing, but did you ever see her do something that, for example, her mother didn't want her to do?
To my memory, the chocolate milk spilling at Easter was the only time I saw Bella do anything that, like, would even require any kind of discipline.
So you don't remember any other time that when discipline was required? And by the way, when I say discipline, I'm not necessarily referring to major drama discipline. I just mean correction.
You know what? I do recall when I was over there a couple times. You know, Bella liked to touch those little spinners that were hanging from the wall. So she'd come over and she'd put her arms up and say, up. And she would be politely reprimanded to say, please, when you want something. So she would then go, up, please, and you'd pick her up and let her touch those.
Who did the gentle reprimand?
My brother and Rochelle.
Okay. Both of them did the same way?
Yes.
Would you describe it as gentle?
Yes.
So both the defendant and Ms. Bond, when you saw her requiring correction, it was a gentle correction.
Yes.
Did you ever see anyone mistreat Bella?
No.
For sure?
Yes.
I gather you've thought about that fairly extensively during the course of this case, is that right?
I have.
And you never saw anybody mistreat her?
No.
When is the last time that you saw Bella Bond?
Middle to end of May 2015.
And do you recall, you testified about this matters in 2015 before the grand jury, is that right?
Yes.
And do you recall then saying it was at the end of May?
Yes.
And so would you say now your best memory is end of May or middle to end of May?
I mean, third week in May now. I guess that's where my memory's going.
And where did that visit take place?
At Maxwell Street.
And when you last saw her, did you see anything different from what you had? Did you see anything about her that was different from the girl that you had come to know?
No, I did not.
Okay. And did you see anything different about, for example, the apartment?
No.
Do you recall, did there come a time when you first discovered that Bella wasn't at Maxwell Street anymore?
I do remember the time when she wasn't over there.
When was that?
July. Beginning of July of 2015.
Okay. And how was it that you learned that she wasn't there?
I was told that Bella is with her father for the summer, and that's why she wasn't there.
Who told you that?
I don't remember.
Well, who do you think might have told you that?
Objection.
Sustained. That's
Well, let me ask you this: who was present when you were told that? Who was in the room?
Rochelle and Michael.
So both of them were in the room.
Yes, they were.
And could all three of you hear what was being said in the room at the time you were told that?
Yes.
Does that mean that it was either Ms. Bond or the defendant who told you that?
Yes.
And does that also mean that whoever didn't tell you that would have heard them tell you that?
Yes.
And you were told that she was with her father for the summer?
Yes.
You had mentioned that you and your brother were quite close, is that right?
Yes.
In touch by, well, let me ask you, how often, in 2015, how often would you typically be in touch by, say, text message?
Once a day.
And how often by phone?
A little less than that, but still once or twice a week.
And again, without being, not intending any, well, just ask it. When you would talk once a day or by text or once or twice a week by phone, did you discuss details of your personal life?
We would.
And did those details include ordinary things like work or home life or that kind of thing?
Yes.
Sports sometimes?
Yes.
Frustration with your father and how he had you doing plumbing work?
Sometimes.
Did it also include discussions about efforts to obtain heroin or other drugs?
Those discussions would happen.
Fairly regularly, right?
Yes.
So, did you also sometimes share detail? Were you seeing someone at the time?
Yes, I was.
And how would you describe your relationship with her at that time?
But my fiance, our relationship was.
No, I just mean, all I was looking for is that she was your fiance.
Oh, okay, yes.
She was your fiance.
Yes.
And you actually had a child together that summer, didn't you?
Yes, we did.
And did you discuss with your brother in the text messages or by phone issues in your relationship with your fiance?
Sometimes.
Meaning things that frustrated you about her or her about you, that kind of thing?
That would come up, yes.
So personal detail. You discuss with your brother personal details about your relationship, is that right?
Yes.
And he would discuss with you personal details about his relationship, isn't that true?
Yes.
So, Mr. Deacon, I'm just looking at the clock. We should probably take a morning break. Is this a good point, or?
Could I ask just one more question?
Yes, yeah.
And in that context, did anybody, the defendant, Ms. Bond, anybody, tell you that DCF had taken custody of Bella?
Not that I remember.
So this is a good place to break.
Okay. So we'll come back in 20 minutes with a reminder not to talk about this case with each other or anybody else.
Court, all rise, please. Jurors, whenever you're ready, you can step down and follow me, please. All rise. Jury entering.
Court. This honorable court is back in session. Please be seated.
Mr. McCarthy, did you, over the summer of 2015, continue to visit 115 Maxwell Street with basically that same frequency that you described? You know, sort of once a week, or maybe skipping a week here and there?
Over the summer, it became less frequent
Why?
because I was taking care of my newborn son full-time.
Did you attend a family reunion that summer?
Yes.
When was that?
The last weekend in July, I believe, of 2015.
And where was it?
It was in Nashua, New Hampshire at my dad's cousin's house.
It was actually at a private home?
Yes.
And who was there?
I went, my fiance, my son, Michael, Rochelle, my father, and some other family members.
A whole bunch of, how many other, just roughly speaking, how many other relatives?
Oh, I think there were about 35 to 40, 45 people.
Did you notice anything unusual, or did you notice any change in Ms. Bond's behavior at that family reunion?
She was quiet and didn't say too much at that party.
How about your brother, the defendant? Did you see any change in his behavior from what it had been earlier in the summer?
I didn't see any change.
Did you see Ms. Bond again that summer after the family reunion?
Yes.
And did she continue to appear to you to be quiet?
No.
Do you recall testifying in the grand jury about this matter?
About
This case?
Yes.
And do you recall being asked about seeing 41? Do you recall being asked about seeing Ms. Bond on Monday, September 15th of 2000? Monday, September 14th of 2015.
I don't remember the exact question or the exact date.
May I approach the witness room?
Yes.
I'm just going to ask you to read. Oh, actually, I guess it's the new technology. Oops. I think I've got it right here. So I'm going to show you page 41 of your grand jury testimony.
No, okay.
And I'm going to ask you to read it to yourself, not out loud.
Okay.
And if I focus it, it will work better. I apologize, Your Honor. It usually has an autofocus that is very quick, and for some reason I'm not having success with using it. Hopefully that's good enough.
Yeah, that's good. I can read
Read
that.
that. So I'm going to ask you to read from the top of the page down to line 19.
Okay. And, okay, I've read it.
And does that remind you about how she was when you would see her over the summer?
Yes, except for the family reunion. That's how I always saw her.
So in it was at the family reunion that she struck you as quiet?
Yes.
Did you become aware through your visits and your contact with your brother and Ms. Bond of a change in their drug habits from the spring into the summer of 2015?
I didn't become aware of that.
Did you hear something about that?
I don't recall hearing anything.
So I'm going to ask you to read to yourself your grand jury testimony, page 41, lines 9 to 10.
This is going to involve hearsay.
Well, I think he's just reviewing to see if it refreshes recollection. Is that right, Mr. Deacon?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
What the
I guess it's
recollection is about hearsay.
It's technically impeachment, I guess, at this point, since he said he didn't hear anything, but
Okay. So
I didn't want to.
the objection is to hearsay overruled.
Did you have a chance to read those lines?
I do. Yes, I did read it.
And does that refresh your memory as to whether you had heard something about their use of drugs over that summer?
There were times when I thought I had heard that they had fallen back into drug use.
And in fact, you had contact with your brother over the summer,
Yes.
by text message at least, about drug use, yours and his. Is that correct?
More his.
Okay, but so you definitely had text messages over the summer about his drug use. Is that correct?
Yes.
Did you in fact have text message with him on at least four occasions between May 1st and September 1st about the two of you obtaining drugs together?
Obtaining drugs together.
Yeah. Securing drugs.
Going text between those? Yes.
And did he discuss with you the identity of his drug dealer?
I only knew a name.
Which is what?
Cosa.
How do you spell that?
I don't know. I would spell it C-O-S-A.
And how is it that you knew the name of your brother's drug dealer?
Because he would tell me.
Has your brother ever had children?
No.
Before moving in with Ms. Bond, do you know whether he ever spent significant time living with children?
No.
No, you don't know, or no?
He has never spent significant time living with children.
Has he ever been responsible for the care of a child?
No.
You talked about your brother burning sage or incense in Ms. Bond's apartment to ward off evil spirits. Is that correct?
Yes.
And had he told you yourself about the process of saging a home?
No.
You sure?
Yes.
Didn't you testify in the grand jury that in response to the question, did he explain to you what the purpose of burning sage? It's impeachment, Your Honor.
I'm sorry, you're objecting?
I'm objecting. For one thing, I haven't seen it. For another thing,
Page 15.
Okay, so it's page 15?
Page 15, line 20.
The grand jury testimony, and I think he made permissible use of the prior statement, so.
Do you recall being asked, did he explain to you what the purpose of burning sage and or incense in her house was? And you answered, the purpose was to, as he told me, to cleanse the house and ward off bad spirits and like evil presences.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
So he did explain to you the purpose of the saging.
The purpose, not the process.
Okay. Fair enough. Does your brother believe in bad spirits and evil presences?
Yes and no.
When you were asked that in that same exact question in the grand jury, your answer was, I believe he did. Was it not?
Yes.
So do you continue to believe that he did?
In what way?
The question is, does your brother believe in bad spirits and evil presences? Do you continue to adhere to what you said in the grand jury that you believe he did?
Okay, yes.
What leads you to that belief?
Because he would look up topics of different beliefs and different cultures in the past.
And would he tell you about his research?
Yes.
What did he tell you about?
He would tell me whatever he found that he was looking up.
And do you have any specific memory of what he would say?
I mean, some beliefs in Catholicism about angels and demons and like Hinduism and Buddhism, chakra points, meditation. You know, he looked up a lot of topics of the such like that.
Does your brother believe in demons?
No.
When you were asked that exact question in the grand jury, your answer was, I do not know. This is page 16, line 21 to 23. I do not know. I don't know if he's ever said to me that he believes in demons, but I think he does. Do you recall giving that answer?
I do.
So you think he does believe a demon?
I thought that at the time, and maybe I do, but
What made you think that at the time? That he believes in demons?
because, as I said, or as I said before, we were raised Roman Catholic, and believing in that religion, there are angels and there are demons in that religion, so that's what led me to that answer.
Were there demons whose names he hesitated to say because he thought that it was dangerous to say them?
That was one of the things that he found when he was looking up topics of, let's say, of demons or of Catholic beliefs.
So he looked it up and found it, but what I'm asking you is, did he tell you that there were names of certain demons that he would not say or didn't like to say because it was dangerous to do so?
No.
So when you were asked in the grand jury, page 17, line 5, how do you know that he's researched topics about demons? You answered, well, he would tell me. And he would also say it's kind of serious stuff. So you don't want to, he wouldn't even like to say demon names out loud because you don't want them to know that you're talking about them. So he would try to stay away from it, but I think he did believe. Was that your answer?
Yes, it was my answer.
Was it true then? Was that a true answer?
Well, I guess it wasn't then, because I was answering that as he was telling me what he found. So I believe that, and I apologize, I misspoke there with some of my words in the grand jury testimony.
So when you ended your answer with, so he would try to stay away from it, but I think he did believe, you're saying he believed, are you saying that he researched it or he believed it?
He researched it, and he may have believed some of the research that he found.
Did he ever discuss with you the possibility of people being possessed by demons?
No.
So when you answered that exact question in the grand jury, not in great detail, and I don't think he necessarily super believes demons going inside people. Is that your answer?
That was my answer.
And so just so we're clear, in the grand jury, when you were asked this question, you answered, he would also say it's kind of serious stuff, so you don't want to, he wouldn't even like to say demon names out loud because you don't want them to know that they're talking. You don't want them to know that you're talking about them. That was your answer in the grand jury, correct?
Yes.
And you were under oath then, just as you are now.
Yes.
No further questions, John.
Good morning, Mr. McCarthy.
Good morning.
Mr. McCarthy, Mr. Deacon just asked you a number of questions about your brother's beliefs or what you thought his beliefs were.
Yes.
And what was the basis of your thinking about what his beliefs were?
I guess the basis starts at being raised Catholic and being raised, in a religious, spiritual household. And I guess from there stems the curiosity of what else is out there.
Okay. Do you practice Catholicism?
I do.
Have you read the Catechism?
Yes.
Do you believe it?
No. No, more so it's just a guideline to be good in life.
Do you know if your brother felt the same way?
I don't know for sure.
And when you say that angels and demons are part of the Catholic upbringing, what do you mean?
Well, there are saints and angels. There are good spirits that are looking over all of us to protect us. And if you believe in good, then there has to be the other side of it as far as bad spirits.
And do you know people who believe that?
I believe I do.
Okay. And do you believe people who practice Catholicism believe that?
Yes.
Was there anything that your brother ever told you about his beliefs in angels and demons that gave you any concern?
No.
Did he ever indicate that his belief in angels and demons would make him act violently?
No.
Did he ever give you any indication when he was talking about angels or demons or anything of that nature that he was angry or mad or crazy?
No.
You mentioned that he did research about other cultures.
Yes.
How did you know about that?
He mentioned to me, told me that he looked that stuff up.
Okay, and what specifically was he talking about?
Specifically, other religions that other cultures believe. Judaism, Hinduism, Buddhism, just other religions practiced around the world in other countries and other cultures.
Did he talk to you about the differences between those religions and his own upbringing in Catholicism?
He would. I think it interests him to see that other people believe different stuff than he was brought up to believe.
And did he talk about how other cultures dealt with things like good and evil?
Yeah, every culture, every religion has their own form of good and bad.
At any time in the time you spent with your brother and Rochelle and Bella, did he ever say anything about Bella being possessed by demons?
No.
And when he talked to you about cleansing the house by burning sage, where did that come from? Who had suggested that?
Rochelle had suggested it.
Okay. And did he tell you any more about why she thought the house should be cleansed?
She said that there were evil spirits, evil presences in the house.
Did your brother ever tell you that he thought there were?
No.
Now, you indicated that your son was born that spring.
Yes.
When was he born?
May 4th,
Of what
2015.
Okay.
Bless you.
And after that time, I think you said that you spent less time at Maxwell Street or with your brother because you were taking care of your son?
Yes.
And how long were you the main caretaker for your son?
For just about the first year of his life, I was home with him every single day.
Okay. Now, you mentioned a fiancée.
Yes.
What is your fiancée's name?
Her name is Kelly.
Okay. And during that time, was she employed?
Yes.
How was she employed?
She's a registered nurse. She works at the Carney now, but she was working at the Brigham and Women's Hospital after he was born.
Okay. And what was she doing?
She was working as a... She was working on a geriatric psychiatry floor.
Okay. And was that a full-time job?
Yes.
And was that the reason that you were the main caretaker for your son?
Yes.
And what's his name, by the way?
His name is Theodore. We call him Teddy.
Now, were there occasions during the time that you were at Maxwell Street, at any time since you first met Rochelle, that you and Rochelle were alone?
Yes.
And did that ever happen during the summer, that is during June or July or August?
Yes.
At any time, did Rochelle ever mention to you that she was afraid of your brother?
No.
Was there any time that she indicated in any way that she wanted to get away from him?
No.
How did you assess their relationship? What did you think of their relationship?
Their relationship seemed to me to be fine, to be an average boyfriend-girlfriend relationship. They weren't over affectionate to each other, but they would call each other hun and babe, and I never saw them fight.
Okay. Now, just to go back a ways, you were asked a number of questions about your growing up.
Yes.
And you indicated that you grew up in South Boston.
Yes.
And that you and Michael, your brother, attended St. Bridget's.
Yes.
Now, you then said that after he got his GED, he worked for your father for off and on,
Yes.
and then at some point, after the time he was living with your mother, or let me ask you this, during the time that he was living with your mother, did your mother and Michael ever leave Boston?
Yes, they did.
And when was that?
That was August of 2002.
And where did they go?
They moved to Redmond, Oregon.
And how long did they live there?
They lived there for 3 years.
And during that time, did you have any contact with Michael?
I did. Not very often, but we stayed in contact.
When he moved back to Boston, he continued to live with your mother
Yes.
until she passed away.
Yes.
And then after that, you mentioned that he had lived at other places, including with a person by the name of Robert McMahon.
Yes.
And was it your understanding that he was renting a room in Robert McMahon's house or apartment?
Yeah, that was my understanding.
Okay. And did he also rent rooms in other places?
Not that I can think of.
Do you remember a woman by the name of Kathleen Richards?
Yes, I do.
Did he live with her for a while?
I don't remember her ever having a place. He lived with her. They were a couple for almost a year, I believe. But she stayed at my mother's house with
Okay,
Michael.
so at that time they were living together there?
Yes.
Okay. Now, during the summer of 2015, did you follow the news at all about Baby Belle?
Yes, I did.
Did you read or see on TV about when she was, when a body was first discovered on Deer Island?
Yes.
And then you followed it after that?
Yes.
And so you saw the picture that was put up on TV and where there was a composite drawing or of that baby?
Yes.
Okay. And did you also see that same composite on billboards?
Yes.
Okay. Did you ever make the connection between that composite photo and Bella?
No, I never did.
And why was that?
I didn't see the resemblance in hindsight, but I was never led to believe that Bella was in any kind of danger, so I never would have thought that she was the missing girl on the billboards and TV.
So when Rochelle told you that she was staying with her mother, with
father.
Rochelle's,
with Bella's father.
okay, you believe she was alive,
Yes.
and from what Rochelle told you, did it appear that Rochelle was telling you she was alive?
Yes.
Now, after the time that you first came over to Maxwell Street, and I think you said that that was shortly before Easter Sunday in April.
Yes.
And if you recall, or do you recall that Easter Sunday was in the beginning of April that year?
Yes.
April 5th, 2015?
Yes.
After that time, was there any occasion where you helped Michael move any of his things to Maxwell Street?
Yes.
And was it later in April? Do you recall generally when it was?
I mean, it may have been the middle of April. It wasn't too far after Easter.
Okay. And where were the things moved from?
from my father's plumbing office to Maxwell Street.
Okay, and how were the things moved?
In my pickup truck.
Okay. And did you help Michael bring the things in?
Yes, yes, I did.
Okay. And when you were bringing things in, was there anything unusual that you noticed?
Yeah, I mean, there was a backpack and a duffel bag that had his clothes in it. When I pulled the duffel bag out of the truck, it dropped rather heavily. And I was informed by Michael that there were some weights in that duffel bag that Rochelle was going to use to do sit-ups with, to get some extra resistance for crunches or sit-ups.
Had you been aware that Rochelle had had a surgery in her abdomen or stomach?
Yes, I was aware of that.
And was it your understanding that these exercises were to strengthen her core?
That, yeah, that's my understanding.
Thank you, Mr. McCarthy. I have no further questions.
If may I have questions from here, Your Honor? I don't have much to ask. Mr. McCarthy, did your brother research Satanism?
Not that I've ever known him to.
So he never, you said he talked to you about things that he researched,
Yes,
but he never told you he researched Satanism.
I never heard Satanism.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. McCarthy. You can step down. You are excused.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay. If it gets any longer than a few minutes, I'll let you know, and we'll take the lunch break. And that will,
all right, please, Juris,
possible convictions of the next witness that could be used for impeachment purposes. And I think the reason Mr. Deacon wanted to know which ones Mr. Shapiro intended to use, presumably this was so that Mr. Deacon could himself bring this out. Mr. Shapiro objected to this. I'm not sure it's, maybe you can articulate better why you're objecting, but frankly, I would like to know which convictions you intend to use, Mr. Shapiro, so I can make my own determination whether they're admissible under the statute and within my discretion. As I do with any witness, that's generally dealt with before the witness takes the witness stand, and I don't think it's a problem for Mr. Deacon to ask for you to do that, so I can make my ruling. So which convictions do you intend to use?
Well, I can't tell you that right now. I did not bring the file with those to court today because I didn't expect to get to my cross-examination today. What I said...
I would like to know, I would like to, frankly, I'd like to get underway, but I would like to know this. Clearly, you have some idea, Mr. Shapiro, which convictions you think are admissible. And, you know, whether you have the certified copies with you today or not, I think to ask you to identify those is not being unreasonable. If you want to do that at 2 o'clock, you can do that. Maybe go back and get your file. You said you left your file at the office. I'd like a heads up. I'm not sure what the problem is. I guess you don't want Mr. Deacon to be able to ask this witness about those convictions. You want to be able to ask about convictions. Is that it?
The point is only this, that Mr. Deacon can read the statute as well as I can. He can determine for himself what convictions, if any, are admissible.
Well,
if Mr.
Shapiro, hold on. Wait a minute. You made that argument.
Can I finish? Can I finish? If Mr. Deacon believes that there are admissible convictions, then he should tell the court what he thinks are admissible, and if I disagree, then I will inform the court that I disagree. But I don't have to help prepare the Commonwealth to examine its own witness. So at this point, I don't have my file here, If the court wants me to get the file, I'll get the file, but I'm still, my position is still that I don't have to help Mr. Deacon prepare his case, and he can inform the court of whether he thinks there are convictions that are admissible, and if he thinks there are convictions that are not admissible, then we can deal with it.
Are you going to, well, I think you did articulate the same reason at sidebar, that you can choose which convictions to use. I think ultimately, though, it has to be me, the court, that decides they're admissible for impeachment purposes. So I need to know that before at some point, before the witness is questioned about it. Now, you seem to be saying you want to wait and make sure that this only comes out in cross-examination, is that it?
What I'm saying is, if Mr. Deacon wants to impeach his own witness, then it's up to him to ask the court now, before his witness takes the stand, if he can introduce that.
Okay, I don't think that's what he's saying.
Well,
I think what he's saying is that if you intend to bring out convictions as part of your cross, which you've indicated you will, is that correct?
No, I didn't indicate that.
So you may or may not.
I may or may not.
But I think the reason he wants to know is so that he can actually bring it out as part of direct. I'm just kind of guessing at that. Is that right?
That's exactly right, Your Honor.
And so that happens in every trial. There's a preliminary decision by the court as to whether convictions are going to be admissible at all, whether they're in direct or cross-examination. I would like to have that determination made. I don't think it's unreasonable for you to identify which convictions you intend to introduce or seek to have as part of your cross-examination.
Judge, if you order me to produce something, the defendant's work product, I'll respect that order.
No.
But unless I'm ordered to do it, I don't intend, if Mr. Deacon wants to file a motion and say, Your Honor, I want to introduce, in order to defang the issue, these convictions, then let him do it. Or if he says, I don't believe any of these convictions are admissible, then he can file it and get a ruling.
Okay.
I
think whoever seeks this ruling, I can make a determination as to which convictions are admissible or not, and then the parties can do with it what they will. So, Mr. Deacon, I can make that determination before you examine her. We can look at her record, and we can have an argument about which convictions are going to be admissible.
Yes, Your Honor, that sounds fine. I'm not insisting on the production of the certified records, even though, frankly, I think I could, but I don't want to hold the case up. But I think that the court is correct that it's discretionary with the court whether to admit any sort of impeachment in this way. And I think the defense, we're at the point where the witness is about to take the stand. I don't think defense can, the case law requires that the conviction, in order to do this impeachment, the conviction must be proven by production of a court record or certified copy. That's Commonwealth versus Puleo, P-U-L-E-I-O, 394 Mass 101 at 104, 1985. So what's required in order to impeach a witness this way is that the defense be prepared, or the person seeking to do impeachment, be prepared to produce certified copies, if necessary, for the impeachment. I'm not insisting that defense counsel have the certified copies here to have this hearing. I am, I think, within my rights to insist that he notify the court of which convictions he thinks he can use. And then I confront them or not.
Mr. Shapiro, he's objecting. I don't think this is work product. I don't think it's intruding on his relationship with his client or impairing his defense in any way. But he's taking the position that he doesn't want to do that. So what I'm suggesting, Mr. Deacon, is can we look at her record and just go through the convictions?
Yes, Your
I
Honor.
can make a ruling
Yes,
as to which convictions I
Yes,
think
Your
are
Honor.
admissible.
Certainly, I'm prepared to do that.
Okay. Should we go ahead and release the jury until 2 o'clock, or can we do this as we sit here right now?
We can certainly do it as we sit here right now. I don't take a position on whether to release the jury at 2 until 2. I don't think it'll take us long to do this. So I'll be guided by the court on the logistics.
Oh, why don't I do this? I need a record. I don't know how long the record is.
It's not exceptionally long, Your Honor. It's, I want to make sure that I have, the version that I have is not completely up to date because it doesn't include her plea. I think it has everything up until her plea before Your Honor in February. But that's a conviction that clearly is coming out in not just this context, but a lot of other contexts.
Okay.
So I think I don't know.
That record should be satisfactory. Why don't I do this? I will release the jury until 2. We're going to have arguments about, we're going to look at a record, and I'm going to go through the convictions and make a ruling as to which ones I would, in my discretion and under the statute, admit into evidence, whether that's by way of cross-examination or by direct. So I will let the jury know that. Court will remain in session. I'll get off. Would you like to? I need a record somehow.
Yes, Your
So
Honor.
do you want me to get off the bench shortly, or do you want to have an argument right now with something before me?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure I have more than one copy of her record available, Your Honor, but I could make another copy of her record in the grand jury.
Okay. Why don't we come back in about 5 minutes? I can get a copy of the statute as well, and then we'll go through that record and make a decision as to which are admissible.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay?
Court, all rise. Court's in a brief recess for 5 minutes.
Okay, I do have the NCIC and the carry before me. So, Mr. Deacon, what in your view would be objectionable and not admissible?
I'm actually still going through it, Your Honor,
Okay.
but I would argue that nothing on page 7 is admissible. I'm going back. I'm going from the beginning to the end, so.
Okay, from the furthest back in time.
Correct.
basically.
Nothing on page 7 would be admissible.
Hold on just a minute. Okay, so let me just look that over. Okay, it looks like dismissals, continuance without a finding. Is that why you say that?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, I agree. That's not, none of that would be admissible. So, Mr. Shapiro, if you disagree with any preliminary ruling I make, please let me know. So we're looking at page 7.
I'm not sure we're looking at the same thing. Page 7, I have are restraining orders.
No, I am looking, well, we're going from...
You're looking at the III, Counselor.
Then
Oh, I'm
I don't
sorry.
know what he's looking at, so I can't respond.
I thought we were looking at the
I'm
criminal
looking
history.
at her Massachusetts court.
That's what I thought I was looking at, too.
Well, apparently
Oh, it's
not.
just, it's a different format, that's all. We may have to go offense by offense, Your Honor. He has, his prints out in a different format.
Okay. So,
Well, if you want to give me a copy, I'll be able to follow where you are.
well, I'm, okay, yeah, do we have the, did you make a copy just for the court?
Right, I thought defense counsel had his own copy. I
Okay.
didn't realize he didn't have a, we both have copies, we just have different versions. If defense counsel has a separate copy of what he's looking at, I could work from that. It's,
We can just listen by date. We'll just go
Fair
by
enough.
date. So we're looking at 6/25/2002.
so I would say that, Your Honor, the first conviction that I think would be admissible was an arraignment on May 9th, 2005 in Fitchburg District Court for larceny over $250. And
Hold on just a minute. What date was that again?
arraignment date is May 9th, 2005.
And that's larceny.
Over.
Yes, I see that. And she did receive a very short committed sentence on that.
Yes.
2 days committed?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, and the reason why you think that's the first possible conviction that could be possibly admissible is because prior charges had been dismissed?
That's correct, for the reason Your Honor stated in reviewing it initially.
Okay, so Mr. Shapiro, would you disagree?
Excuse me?
I don't see any admissible entries before that Fitchburg District Court entry in 2005 for larceny over 250. The prior entries all resulting in dismissals or continuance without a finding.
Yes, I agree that
Okay.
the entries before that
Okay,
are
so,
not.
so Mr. Deacon, if Mr. Shapiro were seeking to have that admitted, you think there is a basis to admit that, basically?
Right, unless there's a mistake, but candidly, I don't think, I'm not prepared to insist on going to get certified copies before I front this information. Not that I think, realistically, I think I should,
Right.
but I understand that the imposition on the court and the jury's time doesn't make it worth it. So what I would say is, yes, I'm willing to accept the accuracy of the bot for the purpose of going through this, and I would then.
So I
would
take it what
present
you're
it.
saying is, assuming defense counsel did get a certified copy
I
as
would-
required by law, then if this particular entry
Yes.
falls within the scope of the statute,
Yes.
and here I'm talking about 233, Section 21, and I could exercise my discretion to allow.
Yes.
Okay.
And I'm not, frankly, not contesting, I'm not asking that Your Honor not allow it. I think
Okay.
it's relevant.
So that's what's going to be coming in. What else?
The next one that I think is admissible is an arraignment on March 10, 2006 in the Clinton District Court for possession of heroin.
Possession of a Class A, well, I'm sorry, Clinton District Court possession Class A substance, yes. In which ultimately she got a short House of Correction sentence,
Correct.
okay?
The next one is the one just before.
That's, Mr. Shapiro, are you making a note of that?
I'm looking,
It's March 10, 2006 entry of a charge, possession of heroin, ultimately ended up in a short committed sentence, and Mr. Deacon agrees that assuming a certified copy were produced, that would also fit within the statute, right?
I agree.
Okay. And there's no other, looks like the others are dismissals, so okay. The next entry,
Is the one just after that. It's an April 6, 2006 arraignment in Fitchburg District Court for possession of a hypodermic needle or syringe.
yes, I agree.
The next one is the next one up, which is a May 15, 2006 Fitchburg District Court arraignment for possession of marijuana.
And although she initially got probation, ultimately she violated it and got a committed sentence,
Yes,
which
Your Honor.
makes it admissible under the statute?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
Then there's a 2-count arraignment in Fitchburg District Court on October 20th, 2006 for possession of heroin and use of a motor vehicle without authority.
Also seems to come within the statute.
Yes.
Okay.
And the only one, the conviction, or the charge in between them for operating after suspended license was guilty filed, so that's a misdemeanor without a sentence.
So, Mr. Shapiro, I don't see a basis for trying to get that traffic violation in. You agree?
Are you talking about use without authority?
No, operating after suspension.
Oh. Yeah, I agree.
Okay. So, continuing on then, we've dealt with the Fitchburg.
But
The other
use
two
without
do.
authority,
Yes.
Then there's a use without authority shortly thereafter in Gardner District that was a guilty probation, which I would argue is not admissible for these purposes. It's, again, a misdemeanor without a sentence.
Mr. Shapiro?
We're talking about the 10/26, 2006?
Yes.
And that's just probation. I agree.
Okay.
Then there's actually 3-count arraignment on February 2nd, 2007 in the Fitchburg District Court. And the Commonwealth would agree that the second and third counts, possession of heroin and possession of cocaine, are admissible. The first count, operating after suspended license, we would argue is not.
Would you agree, Mr. Shapiro?
That's February 2nd, 2007.
Yes. Admissible except for the operating after suspension.
I agree.
Okay.
Then the next one up at Leominster, May 3rd, 2007, Leominster District Court arraignment for shoplifting. The Commonwealth would see that as not admissible because it's a misdemeanor without a sentence.
Mr. Shapiro?
I agree.
Okay.
The next one is in August 15, 2007, Fitchburg District Court arraignment for use without authority. The Commonwealth would agree that that would be admissible.
Okay.
There is a, the next 5 counts up, which are all single counts except for, I guess they're all single count. No, there's a Fitchburg District Court August 18, 2008 arraignment for 2 counts.
Yep.
Possession Class A and Class B. The Commonwealth would agree that all of those are admissible.
Okay.
Then all the rest of the ones going up the page, the Commonwealth would argue are inadmissible.
So what about the 10/8/2008 charge of distribution?
I included that as, the Commonwealth
that's-
sees that as admissible. It's
Okay.
everything above that. Well, so going up, I realize, I'm sorry, I referenced the page. I forgot that we're working from different documents. So
We have a 1/25/2008 arraignment in Fitchburg. We have a 4/10/2008 arraignment Fitchburg. August 18, 2008 arraignment Fitchburg.
2 counts.
And 2 counts. Those are all admissible under the statute.
and the next one up, which is the October 8th, 2008 possession of, that's the one Your Honor had just asked about. That would also be admissible.
Okay, so those are all, they all fit within the statute and could be used.
So with the 12508, 41008,
8/18/08
8/18/08.
and 10/8/08.
and the 10808. Okay.
And then we have an entry 10/16/08 that was dismissed. That's not admissible.
That's right. The following arraignments, I would argue, are not admissible. October 16th, 2008 in Fitchburg District Court for possession of heroin. July 14th, 2010 in the BMC for sexual condition for a fee. 2 counts. August 18th, 2010, Dorchester District Court, sexual condition for a fee. August 27th, 2010, Boston Municipal Court, sexual conduct for a fee. September 21st, 2010, BMC for common night walker. December 7th, 2010, BMC for possession of Class A heroin. Those I would argue are all do not fit under the statute.
Because no sentence was imposed for those misdemeanor charges.
Correct.
Mr. Shapiro, would you have any contrary?
There was a sentence of probation.
That's
Probation for a misdemeanor conviction for which a defendant is placed on probation cannot be used for impeachment because that does not constitute a sentence. The case being 422 Mass 385 Commonwealth versus Stewart. Is that a proper citation?
I took Your Honor's word for it. I think you had just beat me to it, but there is a, Commonwealth versus Stewart, 422 Mass 385 at 387, 1996.
So, Mr. Shapiro, speak now or forever hold your peace. Is there any argument by which those could be admissible?
Which one are we talking about?
We're talking about several. We'll read them out again. Reading from the most recent, which way would you like me to go? The most recent or starting with the oldest?
If we're on, yes, most recent.
Okay. 12/7/2010. Probationary sentence. Violation but no sentence. no period of incarceration. September 21st, 2010. August 27th, 2010. August 18th, 2010. July 14th, 2010, 2 counts, and October 16th, 2008. So,
the conviction on 6/2/2011.
well, we haven't
Oh,
gotten,
we haven't gotten there yet?
wait, hold on. No, we haven't gotten there yet.
No.
It's everything before that,
Okay.
between October 16th, 2008 and December 7th, 2010.
We agree.
Okay, so then that brings us to June 2nd, 2011. Possession of a Class E substance. Mr.
The Commonwealth would agree that the 4, starting with that one, which was a 3-count arraignment, and then there's a sexual conduct for a fee that was the most recent one before the plea that Your Honor took. All of those, I think, fit under the statute.
Okay, so I think we're in agreement that certain things are not admissible because dismissed or no sentence imposed, straight probation, and certain things are admissible.
And just so I'm clear on the last one, 7/22/2011, and the 6/2/2011, 3 counts,
Yes?
and 12/7/2010.
12/7/2010, no. Because that was a straight probation, and a misdemeanor conviction for which a defendant was placed on probation is
Okay.
not admissible.
All right, so everything, the 3 count on 6/2/2011 and the count on 7/22/2011.
Yes,
I agree.
okay. Okay, so we now know which convictions are going to be admissible, whether the witness is questioned by the Commonwealth or the defendant. So, any other issues we can talk about since we have a few minutes before the lunch break?
Oh, well, I can update the court, and I think defense counsel knows this, but we might as well put it on the record so there's no dispute about who knew what when. I spoke to the medical examiner's office. Dr. Nields can adjust his schedule, so he would no longer will be testifying on Monday.
Okay,
I proposed to him the following Monday, because I know that's a time that he often likes, the Monday morning, 9 o'clock. He actually asked me, because of a commitment that he has with a candidate to replace him, he's retiring. He asked me if he could do Friday, June 9th, which is the end of next week.
Okay.
And I told him I thought that was fine.
I think that should work. Okay.
And defense counsel contacted the Office of the Medical Examiner and asked for the opportunity to meet again with Dr. Nields in preparation for his testimony, and I believe they extended an invitation to defense counsel and me to come next Tuesday at 2:30, which would be after the court
Okay.
day.
Yep.
I guess the issue that I would like to address here is that the Commonwealth agreed to the defense sitting down with Dr. Nields and asking him whatever questions about this case they had, and we thought that had been done. Apparently, defense counsel now feels that there are additional questions that he would like to ask, and the medical examiner has agreed to do it, so fine. I would ask the court to rule that that be limited to questions about the specific cause of death. That is, what were you prepared to testify is the cause of death in this case, understanding that you're not allowed by law to say homicidal violence type undetermined. And questions that are directly relevant to that issue. For example, how did you reach that diagnosis? I mean, that conclusion. What are the factors that went into it? Did you consider this factor in it? But I would ask that it be clear that defense counsel not be allowed to turn it into a true deposition and say, you didn't say that the last time we were here, that kind of thing. I think it ought to be open-ended questions designed to elicit what are you going to testify as the cause of death, which I've already told the court I think what he's going to say, and questions directly relevant to how did you reach that conclusion. And not a sort of wide-ranging...
Because your concern is that it would become like a deposition.
Well, I think, right, and defense counsel's already had one opportunity to do this, and I think it's only reasonable to say, otherwise, my other proposal in that case, if defense counsel wouldn't agree to that or Your Honor wouldn't order it, would be to say, let's have a voir dire before he testifies on Friday, rather than a free-flowing sort of unrestrained foray.
Okay, Mr. Shapiro, I think that's reasonable. I thought the medical examiner's, the key issue here was the issue about the cause of death.
The medical examiner is a witness in this case. Both parties should have whatever access to the medical examiner or any other witness that is permissible under the law. So I don't see there's any basis for the court to restrict me in talking to a witness. Now, Mr. Deacon can be there, the medical examiner. It's up to the medical examiner whether he's going to talk to me or whether he'll answer the questions or not. Mr. Deacon will hear it, but I don't see there's any basis for the court to impose any kind of restriction on what access the defense have to Commonwealth witnesses.
So, Mr. Deacon, I guess Mr. Shapiro's point is that the witness can make his own decision as to whether to talk to defense counsel. I think that's right. In other words, apart from your agreeing to this meeting, he could always call up the medical examiner and say, I want to talk to you.
I think that's true. I also think the medical examiner at this point would be well within his rights to say, I gave you an hour and a half of my time. I answered every question that you had. I don't choose to meet with you again before trial. I credit him that he doesn't seem to be taking that position, which would, I think, be a reasonable position on his part. He's taking a different position. I think, I think it's reasonable at this point for the court to impose some restriction on that, and or to simply say, let's have a voir dire so that the court then can supervise what questions are asked.
Okay, so I think perhaps we should just let it happen. And then, frankly, if the medical examiner feels it's gone, too far, consuming his time needlessly, he can take the position he doesn't want to engage in that. Frankly, I would then be hard-pressed to allow Mr. Shapiro to somehow bring to the jury's attention that he was not cooperative. Right. That would be a problem. But I think Mr. Shapiro's point is that the witness can speak for himself, and I shouldn't try to intrude in that process.
And seeing how this has played out, Your Honor, I think that's right. I guess I would withdraw my request.
Okay.
If nothing else, I wanted to put it on the record that I had this concern, but I think Your Honor's right on that, and I would therefore withdraw any request that I made.
Okay. Okay, so that's all we need to talk about before 2, and then at beginning at 2, we're going to put Ms. Bond on the stand, and there's not going to be any issues that will come up in the next 2 hours that we need to talk about at length.
I don't think so.
Okay. Okay, so we'll see you at 2 o'clock.
Court, all rise, please. Court's in recess till 2 o'clock, please. You can exit the courtroom now. Thank you.